If you're anything like me, you're eagerly awaiting the release of XDefiant. In the meantime though, while we're waiting on the game, I figured it would be cool to make some tier lists, some videos discussing things in the game so that we're better prepared to play and to dominate when the game releases. So with that being said, this video we're going to be breaking down every single ability in XDefiant in a tier list. And we're not going to be saying which faction is the best, we're just going to be looking at individual abilities and determining where they stand compared to others, including ultras and passives. As you can see the tier list on the screen now, we're working from S to D, from very strong, I would say overpowered, but there is pretty good balance in this game. So very strong to great to good to situational and to very weak abilities. So with all that being said, we're just going to work straight through the list from top to bottom. So let's go ahead and get into it. The best way to do this is going to be to start with ultras and work our way down the list. So we'll do all the ultras, then all the activateds and all the passive abilities. But the first ultra we're going to look at is this sonar goggles from the echelon faction. It reveals your enemies and you hunt them down with an extremely strong pistol that can 1 to 2 shot kill. So this ability, this ultra is very powerful. It's extremely strong and gives you a lot of outplay potential, and it's one of the most fun abilities to use in the game. Like you can have some crazy plays, make some awesome plays with this ability. It's really great, but compared to other ultras, I don't think it's in that top tier. You don't want to live without this ability on you or on one of your teammates. So I'm going to put it in the great category because it is a great ultimate. It's just not as strong as maybe 1 or 2 others that we'll look at here in a moment. Second ultra we're looking at is the, I don't know how to pronounce it, it's Aegis, the Aegis, the Aegis, the Aegis, Aegis, I don't know. We're going to say Aegis just because that's how I think it should be pronounced. So this is the ultra for the Phantoms faction, where you get this humongous bubble and this plasma shotgun that just rips people to shreds as you use it. And the Phantoms faction is what I play usually, but I'm going to try to go through this completely unbiased. This ultra is good. Like by definition, it's a good ultra, but I think even more fitting by definition is it's extremely situational. You can't use this ultra anywhere you want and get value out of it. You're not guaranteed a lot of value from this ultimate. It's an ultimate that is phenomenal and game winning in the right situations. So for that reason, I'm going to put it in the C tier. For example, if you're on the last 5% of an escort map and you have this ultimate, you're able to pop it, the enemies have to run at you and you're just able to kill them, or your teammates are able to play around this ginormous shield and be invulnerable while they're shooting the enemies. Like the enemies are forced to play around it, but if you're in a situation where the enemies have no option but to play into you, it becomes a great ability. But even with that, there's nades that can counter you. There's situations where it doesn't matter. And I found myself at times holding on to this ultimate because I'm not in a situation to do anything good with it. So for that reason, I'm putting it in the C tier. It's a very situational ultimate, but can be good in the right circumstances. The next ultimate we're looking at is from the Libertad faction, and it's the Medico Supremo. I know I said that very foolishly, but the Medico Supremo, Supreme Medicine, I think is what this is in English, ultimate. And this is by far the best ultimate in the game. There's no sugarcoating it at all whatsoever. It essentially makes you invulnerable. Unless there's several people shooting at you and not missing any bullets, it makes you invulnerable for, I don't know how long, like 5 to 10 seconds, but more than that, it makes any of your teammates who are standing in it invulnerable. So unlike C, this can be used anywhere on the map in any situation and you're invulnerable. You can get stuck with a sticky grenade. It doesn't matter. You're not going to die. You're going to get your health back immediately. This is an extremely strong ultimate. It activates instantly and you're able to dominate everyone. And there's literally no counter to this ultimate in the game. Except for sometimes you can use Aegis and get a one-shot kill on somebody, but even then, this is the best ultimate in the game, the best ultra in the game, and it's not even close. It's S tier, and I don't think I really need to explain why. The next ultimate we're looking at is the Purifier from the Cleaners faction, and this is just a flamethrower. It's a flamethrower that incinerates people the moment it touches them. It's a one-shot kill, instant kill, and there's no counter to it. I don't think it's great. I don't think it's as good as the sonar goggles because you don't have infinite range. You don't get wall hacks. I think this is very clearly a step below that, but I do think it's better than the Aegis because you're able to spam it, kill more people at once. You're not getting a shield, but again, if people are close enough, and it does have pretty good range on it, you're going to get much more value out of this than the Aegis. So we're going to be putting it in the B tier. I think it fits really nicely between sonar goggles and the Aegis Ultra. The last ultra we're looking at is Lockout from deadsec, which is basically just a massive EMP. It can be good, but compared to all the other ultimates in the game, I'm going to put it in the very weak category. And this isn't just so that there's one in each category. It does look nice, but you could argue that it's situational, but even then, like, you don't know when the other team has their ultimates. You don't know if they've used their abilities. This game isn't like Overwatch where without abilities you're screwed, you're useless. Without abilities are supplemental, they're accessories in this game. They're not the heart of the game. At the heart of the game, it's still an arcade FPS where gunplay beats gunplay. So because of that, I think this ultra is very weak. It's still good. It's not bad by any means, but compared to all the other ultras and it being the top of the top rarest ability to get in your faction, it is very weak considering all those things. So moving from the ultras to the activated abilities, we're going to start with the Libertad's abilities. And we'll start with El Remedio, which is the remedy. Again, I'm just assuming. This is a canister that you throw down that heals your teammates. So it's essentially a mini ultimate that heals a little slower and doesn't give you 200 health. And it's an activated ability that you drop, I think, every 30 seconds. So this is a great ability. It's an absolutely phenomenal ability. And compared to the BioVita boost, I think it's ultimately better for a couple of reasons. It's less selfish, your team is getting much more out of it, and you're able to use it almost like a mini ultimate. So I'm going to put it in the S tier, not in the sense that it's as good as the Ultra, it's not, but compared to other activated abilities, it's going to get the most value out of almost any of them, and it's a very, very strong activated ability, so it's going to go in the S tier for me. Next, we have the BioVita Boost, which is the other activated ability for Libertad. And what it does is you use it and it's almost like a stem. It's going to, basically instantly max out your health and give you 20 extra health. So this is a great ability, but I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, I'm pretty sure it doesn't give your teammates a boosted 20 health. Again, I could be wrong, but I don't think it does. I think it does boost their health quickly, but I think a nerf for it was it doesn't give your teammates the extra 20 health. If it did, I'd put it in S tier, but because you yourself are only getting that extra 20 health, and it's a one-time quick healing versus a sustained quick healing like El Remedio, I think El Remedio is overall the better ability. Now, granted, if you're a solo player, you're playing all by yourself, you're trying to go for some crazy clips, I think BioVita might be better than the El Remedios in a selfish standpoint. But in a team game, when we're thinking about competitive play at the highest level, I think you're going to get more value out of Remedio. BioVita Boost is better, and if I'm playing pubs, I'm honestly probably going to run Boost instead of Remedio. But in a team setting, when we're thinking about value, Remedio is going to be better. So I think BioVita goes properly, fits nicely in the A tier. Moving on from Libertad to the Cleaner's activated abilities, we're going to start with the Incinerator Drone. And looking at the Incinerator Drone, I'll be honest with you, in theory it sounds pretty cool, but the biggest problem with this drone is that the area of effect that it has is one long line instead of a wide surface area, if that makes sense. So pretty much if you're ever in an occupy zone or capturing an objective or moving the robot, they can throw this, but it's very easy to step out of the way and avoid it while still being in the zone, or while still capturing the point, or while still escorting the robot. There's some situations where it's good in, but it's not good, honestly. And if I ever do get hit by it, it's like, oh well, there goes 20 health. It just doesn't do enough damage, and the damage over time is very slow. So for that reason, I'm going to put it in the D tier. It's very weak. It's not useless, but it could definitely use some some buffs or some changes to make it better. On the other hand, we have the Firebomb, which is a AoE Molotov that you throw at your own feet, and it makes like a burst damage onto your opponents. And I think this is actually a really good ability. I've seen some people make some pretty cool plays with this ability, some like last second dive saves. It's a very helpful ability to have. It's not the best, it's not the greatest, but I do think it is a good ability. So we're gonna put it in the B tier because I do think you get some good value out of it, but compared to other abilities, it's just not as good as them. Moving from the cleaners, we'll step into the echelon abilities, and the first one we'll look at is the Intel suit. The Intel suit is, if you don't know, you press the button and it's like a mini portable radar essentially on your body that gives you wall hacks for a short duration, for a short distance. So this ability is good, but there is a downside. What I found when I used this ability was I got extreme tunnel vision on the people that were closest to me and completely ignored the fact that someone could be outside of that range and could still see me. So it is a good ability, especially if you're trying to break into a occupy zone or trying to work through a very tight area of the map. It's better on some maps than others, but because of the situationalness, because of the drawbacks and the discipline you have to have when you use it, I'm gonna put it in the B tier. It's good, not great, but it's better than just being, quote, situational, where you're only gonna get value out of it in very, very specific situations. So I think it fits nicely in the good tier. Moving now to the ghillie suit, the invisibility ability. It is weird because in theory you would think this should be a fantastic ability. I mean, that's just what you would think. You're going invisible, you can't be seen, you're able to make plays, but the problem is you are a little too visible in the suit. And they did this so that it wouldn't be brokenly overpowered. If you were completely invisible, then this ability would be broken. I mean, it would just be absolutely broken. And if your opponent isn't paying attention, you still will go by them unnoticed. But the way they have the ability set up, and I think this is the best way for it to be set up, is so that you're invisible, but there is a like small window of time or small chance that your opponent will still be able to kind of see your body's movement while you're invisible. So I'm gonna put it in the good tier because it is a good ability, but what I find when I use it is oftentimes it does get countered just by my enemies simply seeing me. Again, it's not situational. It could be better, but I think if it gets any better than it is right now, it would genuinely just ruin the game. And it would be very, very annoying to play against this ability. So I think it's in a good spot, though it's not the best ability. I don't think it needs to be the best ability. You can make some cool plays with it. You can catch people off guard with it. But overall, you don't want to be making this ability overpowered because it would ruin the game. So I think it's right where it needs to be in the good category. It's usable, but it's not broken. I think this is a great spot for that ability. Moving on to the phantom abilities now, the one I'm most familiar with of all my playtime is the mag barrier. The mag barrier is a portable shield that you throw to the ground that activates almost instantly. There's a slight delay that makes you invincible. It makes you invulnerable. You hide behind the shield. I don't know exactly how much health the shield has, but I know it's a lot. I want to say it's probably like 300, maybe 400. I know if you hit it with a grenade, you still have to take quite a few shots into it for it to break. So I think this is a great ability. You're not going to get kills with it every time you use it, but what it serves as is a lane denial. When you put this ability up, the enemies can't do anything but either try to shoot it from an off angle or try to get around it or just die. Or run away from it. So it's a great lane denial ability that's really underrated for that to be, but it also has a lot of outplay potential where you can get shot in the back, run around the corner, they're going to chase you because you're weak. You throw the mag barrier right at your feet, and when they turn the corner, they wide swing you. You're invincible even if you're on 10 health, and you're able to shoot them through the barrier. So I'm going to put it in great. I don't think it's the best ability in the game by any means, but I do think it's better than the ones that are in the good category. It gets a ton of value unless you use it very, very poorly, and the more you use it, the more you learn how good this ability is, and you're able to, like I say, get a ton of value out of it. So the A tier, I think, is perfectly suited for this ability. The next Phantom ability we see is the Blitz Shield. And I'll just be honest with you, I'm putting it straight in the D tier. Unless there is some mechanic or some aspect of this shield that I'm unaware of, it is just far inferior to the mag barrier. You can't shoot when you have it out. It's just a riot shield. A riot shield shouldn't be an ability that you unlock every 30 seconds in this game. It just shouldn't. It's, in my opinion, the worst ability in the game. It gets hardly any value whatsoever, and if your enemy sees you with it, they can throw a nade to you, stick you with it, and you die. They can shoot your feet. They can run around you. You can't really sprint at them because then they're able to see. Like, it's just a terrible ability. It's very weak. In my opinion, it's the worst ability in the game from what I've seen from it. So not much else to say there. Just not a good ability at all. Moving into the deadsec activated abilities, we have Hijack, which is a device you pull out that hacks enemy abilities and makes them yours. The easiest example of this would be the mag barrier. If you or your enemy throws out a mag barrier, then you can use your hijack ability, and that mag barrier immediately becomes yours, which is very, very good. The problem is it's also very situational, depending on what abilities your enemies have, what abilities your enemies are using, and how much benefit you are going to get from hacking their abilities. So if we just look at the other abilities in the list, the El Remedio, the Medico Supremo, those you get great hacking ability in the sense that your enemy doesn't get to use it, but there's no value in the sense that your team is now going to use it. The mag barrier, on the other hand, when you hack it, the enemy can't use it, but now you also use it and you get the benefits that it was providing to your enemies in almost every situation. So it's great for that. As far as Firebomb and Intel Suit and Ghillie Suit goes, I don't understand how you hack those because they're instant abilities. They're not something that kind of sits and stays. And then same with Blitz Shield and Incinerator. I haven't had enough playtime with this ability to understand exactly how it works. But I'm going to put it in the C tier, strictly because I think it is very situational. It can be good, but it's not. Most of these other abilities, this ability depends on your opponents using something that you're able to react to, which makes it by definition extremely situational. So I think it belongs right here in this category. The last activated ability we're looking at is the Spider Bot, everyone's favorite ability in the game. And this may be a hot take. I don't think it's overpowered. I don't think it's broken. I would love it if they took it out of the game, just strictly off the fact that it's annoying. So what we can't do though is confuse something that's annoying with something that is brokenly overpowered. Thinking about it, getting a stun grenade that you get every 30 seconds that your enemies can counter and shoot or destroy is not broken. It's annoying to deal with, I'll give you that. But as we play the game more and more, what we'll come to learn is you can hear it, you can determine, you can guess its pathing, predict its pathing, you can shoot it, you can do all these things to keep this from happening. I think it's a good ability. I don't think it's weak by any means. You can get great value out of it, but just because it's annoying doesn't make it great, and it doesn't make it very strong. So I'm gonna put this in the good ability because it's good. It's gonna get some good value. But again, it's just a long-lasting stun grenade that you get every 30 seconds that heat seeks out your enemies. So I don't think there's much more to say. It's annoying, but it's not broken. It's a relatively good ability. Moving into the last set of abilities that we see in the game is going to be your passive abilities, which in my opinion are some of the most important in the game, because they're the ones that are always active, that you're not having to activate, and compared to the rest, they're going to get the most value because they're always active. So starting with the deadsec ability is the fabricator, and after some research, basically the only thing the fabricator does is make you earn your abilities back faster. So where echelon and others will have 30 seconds to get their ability, deadsec may have 20 or 25 seconds to get their ability. And because abilities, this would be great if abilities were a huge, massive part of the game like Overwatch or Valorant, where you can't play the game if you don't have access to your abilities. But like I said with their Ultra, the problem is this is a game, and this is a good thing, where the fundamentals of the game, the core of the game is still FPS shooter, gun skill. Whoever has more gun skill is going to win. So with that being said, the fabricator speeding up the rate at which you get your abilities doesn't play a big role in the game, because even if you're getting your abilities 50% faster, because the abilities aren't broken on deadsec, and abilities are an accessory to the main aspect of the game, which is being an FPS shooter. The abilities aren't the core of the game and aren't what makes the game what it is. So for that reason, I'm putting it in the very weak tier. I think there's a lot that could be changed with this. And deadsec as a whole, just honestly, could probably use some work because of the nature of the game not being ability first, but ability second. It makes deadsec and their hacking abilities and ability cooldowns and things like that much less effective. Next passive is the Phantom's passive, which is hardened. And what it does is it just gives you 20 extra health. And I've already released a video on this, but I think that's S tier. I think that is the best ability in the game, hands down, including all the ultras, all the activated abilities, all the passives. Hardened is the best ability in the game because every gunfight you get into, you enter it with a leg up. You enter it with 20 more health. You enter it with your opponent needing to get 1 to 2 more bullets on you for you to die. There have been countless times where I've survived with less than 20 health running Phantoms in a situation where if I don't have Phantoms, I die. If I don't have Phantoms, I lose the gunfight and my game changes completely. I think they've done a good job balancing this though, because the other abilities on Phantoms aren't all broken. But the passive is the best ability in the game. I think they might end up changing it so that you don't get extra health, because you get extra health every time you spawn and every gunfight you get into when you're not on half health. And if your opponent hits you, gets one shot off and you turn a corner and then come back, you're still at 100 health. It's still an even fight. Even if they get a shot off before you're even able to react to them, it's still an even fight. So I know the BioVita boost does give you an extra 20 health when you pop it, but again, that's something that you're getting every 30 seconds. And you're only getting it once in the heat of a battle. This ability is a passive, so you have it all the time. And every time you spawn, every time you approach someone, every time you get in a new gunfight, you're gonna have 20 extra health, which is just absolutely insane. S tier ability, best in the game. The next passive is incendiary rounds, and it's pretty self-explanatory. Your bullets deal extra burn damage over time. The problem is, one, it doesn't do a lot of damage. I think it deals like 8 damage or 10 damage or something like that. I've had several situations where I've gotten hit by a cleaner, I've killed them, and then as my damage is ticking down, my health is ticking down, it ticks down by like 10 after the gunfight's over. The second thing is it decreases your weapon range. So this is the only passive in the game that actually has a negative attribute to it. I don't think this should be on the passive at all. It's already not a strong passive. And the way it takes away more of your character's ability, more of your gun ability, it just makes it worse. So I'm putting in very weak. I don't think it's a strong ability. I don't think you see it playing effect much at all. There may be times where you get a kill, but I would say probably maybe 1 out of every 20 engagements are going to be changed by you having incendiary rounds. That's just the bottom line. Next passive we're looking at is the echelon passive, where it's your character doesn't appear on the opponent's mini-map, regardless of what action you perform. Overall, I think this is a phenomenal passive. You get Ghost, you get Cold-Blooded, you get a suppressor on all your guns in a passive trait. So that opens up an attachment slot. It opens up your ability to do lots of things. You don't have to be cautious of if enemies are going to see your red dot on the mini map. I mean, it's a phenomenal ability. This is actually the hardest ability for me to rank, because a lot of it would say this is S tier. I mean, you don't have to have a suppressor. You don't have to worry about showing up on the mini map ever. Like, that's a really, really strong passive. The problem is there's still game sound, and not many people are running suppressors anyways. And in a competitive environment, which is where all of my time is going to be focused in like ranked play and professional play, there's still going to be communication. The enemies are still going to end up knowing where you are. So because of that, I'm putting it in the A tier, but anyone can make a great argument for this being an S tier passive, especially if you're playing pubs. But I'm going to put it in A tier because I don't think it compares to Hardened, and I think it's great, but it's not the top of the top best in the game. The last passive we're looking at on this tier list is the Spirit of the Liberty, a Spirit of Libertad. However that's said in English, I'm not going to try to pronounce it in Spanish, but this is where you heal over time. Regardless, you and all the allies that are surrounded by you are healed over time. And you're healed over time pretty much as soon as you stop taking damage, you begin to be healed. I think this is a fantastic ability, but again, I don't think it's S tier, have to be running this or you're at a disadvantage. I think it goes in the A tier. I think it's a great ability. It is not broken because you regen kind of slower, but it's so good, and your teammates get the healing from it that you get for yourself. So I can run Phantoms, have 120 health, and have a teammate that's staying close to me who's running Libertad, and I get this their passive. I get double passive abilities. So that could be an argument to put it in S tier. But when we're talking about a single person, thinking about you as an individual, I would rather have 20 extra health at all times versus gaining health back faster. Because it doesn't matter if you're gaining health back faster if you die in a gunfight where you wouldn't have died if you had 20 more health. This is a great passive, and again, you could argue that this is an S tier passive, but compared to what's already in the S tier with the Hardened, I don't think it's possible to say that this is deserving of being in the same exact spot as the Hardened ability. If Hardened wasn't in the game, low profile and Libertad ultra or passive immediately become S tier, but because Hardened is there, it shifts them down because of how good the Hardened passive is. Well guys, that's gonna do it for me in this tier list video. Let me know in the comments below if you agree. Let me know what you would change around, what you think I got completely wrong, if you think I was spot on in some areas. I think overall the game is very balanced for the most part. There are some things that are absolutely broken, like the Libertad Ultra, but it's an Ultra, so it's just one of those things. So even the D tier abilities can get value. Even the D tier abilities can be used well. They're just not as good as the ones above it. And everything can't be S, A, and B. If everything was S, A, and B, then you would have a very broken game, a very hard game to handle. So I think it is a well-rounded game. I think the abilities are pretty balanced for the most part, especially because you have one ability in Phantoms that might be S tier, but another ability that's C tier and D tier. So it's very well balanced in the sense that the passive for one may be best, but the activated and Ultra for the other may be best. So maybe this will give you some guidance as to who you want to play. Maybe this will give you some guidance as to what abilities you want to prioritize, and will inform who you determine is the best faction for you. So that's going to do it for me in this video. Again, let me know if you would change anything. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Subscribe for more XDefiant content, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.